What's going on, Bulls Nation? Welcome in to the CHGO Bulls Podcast. Coming to you live from our studios here in West Loop, downtown Chicago. I'm Peck, Bulls_Peck. My guy, Big Dave, BAWL Sports. The GOAT off. He'll be back tomorrow. The one and only pound producer on the controls, Joey Spathers at Joey Spathers. And joining us in studio, very pleased to be welcoming him back, Bulls PA announcer. Add to that, Chicago Bears PA announcer, Chicago Fire PA announcer, Illini, NBA 2K. He's also doing some cool stuff with Stadium right now. We're doing a show about cards and collectibles. Ladies and gentlemen of Bulls Nation, give it up for the one and only Tim Sinclair.
Sorry for the long introduction. You didn't need to do all that.
Yes, I did.
Oh, he did. He did.
Someone with as many accolades
know.
and things on your resume needs all of them to be spoken
Well, I appreciate
when you
it.
enter a room. Follow Tim on Twitter, Tim J. Sinclair, if you aren't already. Tim, how's the offseason treating you, man?
Good. I like an off season. I like a little bit of a downtime.
Me too.
But also, I'm definitely ready to get back. I've had plenty of soccer this summer, but Bears preseason at home Saturday, and then obviously Bulls not too far away. So looking forward to all that.
This will be your first time seeing Caleb out there on that field doing this
in
thing.
person. Yeah,
In person.
I'm looking forward to it.
Oh man! So I'm curious about your routine. You don't have to tell me the routine of what you do, but when it's the off season, like how do you rest and prepare your voice? Because this is the $1 million, sir, right here, sir. So how are we taking care of this?
I've heard the voice is a muscle, and so the more you use it, the stronger it gets. And so honestly, I don't try to take much vocal rest time per se, other than just the natural ebb and flow of a schedule. But I use it a lot, and so in theory, it's going to get stronger unless you're sick, and then you got tea and that kind of stuff.
Right.
But I don't really have a conscious, I need to rest today, unless one, I'm sick, or two, I've done like 2 games in one day, which happens from time to time.
Yeah,
and you're just gassed, or you're like the 2K recordings, you're there for 4 or 5 hours giving it everything you have. That tends to go, all right, I need to take a break for a little bit.
I believe, as the wise Steve Carell once told us, if you don't use it, you lose it.
It's correct.
So,
true.
Correct.
So speaking of Caleb Williams and the Bears, you are also, of course, the PA announcer for those home games at Soldier Field. You just confirmed with us that you did watch episode 1 of Hard Knocks.
I did.
Which obviously Bears fans are frothing at the mouth over, myself included. And then we saw Caleb Williams with some nice field goal drives in their preseason game after that. But there is a certain thing that happened within the first 5 minutes of episode 1 that
I had a feeling that might
Bulls
come up
fans
today.
also said, aha! And it was one of your predecessors, the truly incredible Ray Clay, the voice of the Bulls, especially in the back end of that 90s dynasty, former PA announcer, doing the serious Alan Parsons Project Bulls starting lineup routine, but instead for Caleb Williams.
Right.
What were you thinking about as you watched that unfold?
It caught me really off guard.
Yeah.
For one, I had no idea.
Yeah.
I had no idea. And at first, I was like, hey. Like, I knew it was Ray.
Yeah.
But I was like, the voice of the Bulls and the voice of the Bears are the same guy. It feels like it would have made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But upon rewatching it, I know what they were trying to do.
Sure,
they were saying Caleb could be the next Michael.
Right.
They wanted the guy who introduced Michael, which was not me. So I get it. But in the moment, I was like,
It hurt your feelings a little bit?
Did I look at my phone? Did I miss a call or something from HBO?
Call your agent management team.
Right.
Why was I not booked for this?
Nice.
But with that said, like, I love Ray. He was one of the first people to get in touch with me after I got the Bulls job
Yeah.
and congratulate me. I'm glad he got that opportunity, and it makes sense from a storyline perspective. But in the future, HBO, if you're listening, I'm available. I'll check my phone, I promise.
He's like, I promise you I won't be busy. Oh, man. Do you have a favorite number to call on a Bears game? Like, who's your favorite one to say? Because there's so many, you know what I mean? Of so many numbers, so many players to call. Do you have one?
I have always enjoyed, and this goes back to Illinois basketball. Okay. Anytime there is someone has an abbreviated first name with a J in it, Like
Okay.
DJ, AJ, TJ.
Mm-hmm.
For whatever reason, that is fun for me to say.
Okay.
And so DJ Moore
Yeah.
tends to, DJ Moore. Like there's something about that I love doing. So I would probably say DJ Moore.
Okay.
We also had, when I was with the Pacers for a couple of years, we had 3 TJs on the same team.
Oh, I remember that.
TJ Ford.
It was Leaf and
Yeah.
McConnell and Warren, I think.
Warren? Oh, yeah, you did have TJ Warren.
We had
Yeah.
3 of them at the same time. So I kind of got used to it there too.
Okay.
So I'll say DJ Moore, but there's no wrong answer. Anytime something good happens, it's a lot of fun.
How do you have a Caleb Williams ready to go?
Yeah.
Or are you still working through it?
I didn't think about it coming up with Caleb. I assumed it would come up with Matas.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'll answer.
We're working our way.
I have always been a big proponent of authenticity.
Yes, sir.
And I feel like me trying to craft a call in the shower or the car or my office at home
Okay.
is weird.
Mm.
Like it doesn't take
Practicing it before it's
Yes.
actually happening.
It doesn't take into account context. It doesn't take into account the crowd. It doesn't take into account any of that stuff. I would rather it come out of my mouth the way I'm feeling right then.
Okay.
Now, that can evolve.
Right.
Like DeMar DeRozan wasn't always DeMar DeRozan, but it grew into that.
Yeah.
Ayo wasn't always Ayo. It wasn't.
Love that one.
That was different.
Yeah.
But it started kind of like that,
Yeah.
and then as context grew, those calls grow. So I would assume, to answer your question with a lot of words, I would assume both Caleb and Matas will start somewhere.
Sure.
And probably
then
evolve over time. And hopefully the idea is you can't have an iconic call for everyone.
Yeah.
Sure.
But
sure.
you can have a few. And
Right.
so I would hope those 2 guys are 2 that.
Well, you mentioned DeMar. I mean, I would wager a decent amount of change that in all of the different PA jobs you've done over the last 3 years that DeMar has spent in a Chicago Bulls jersey, you haven't said a name as many or more times as DeMar DeRozan's because of all the buckets he got spanning 3 years, including 2 All-Star seasons.
That's very true.
What do you think will be, your impulse or your instinct, and do you fear the need to fight that when DeMar in a Kings jersey rolls up to the United Center one time this upcoming
That's
season?
going to be so hard for a couple of reasons. One, it's just natural reaction to say his name that way for me. And I know, since I base so much of what I do on the crowd and the situation, I know a lot of the crowd is going to be cheering for him too, even though they want the Bulls to win. They love DeMar, so I get it.
Yes.
It is going to be real hard to say DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah.
And just be done with
Just
it,
an
right?
afterthought.
Right? Like, I don't know
if he's rocking a defender to sleep, hitting the classic pull-up J. Like,
So, and I don't know how, like, he'll start when he comes.
Of course.
There was a situation years ago that didn't go real well.
Yeah,
we don't need to
I
dwell on
didn't
that.
necessarily want to bring that up.
It did not do.
I
So-
also definitely wanted to bring that up.
I'll bring it up, and I will say, like, I am an employee,
Yes, sir.
and
Yes,
it is
sir.
my job to do what my employer wants.
Sure.
And I don't know what that is, but I want to give. I always want to give, and I would fight for. We need to give people the respect they're due.
Sure.
Right.
Do we have to do it the same way we did when he was a Bull? No.
Right.
But I'm also not going to be flippant and throw away about it like we're going to dismiss him.
Right.
So I'm sure that will be a conversation that'll be had. And
There's probably also going to be a video on the on the jumbotron in a first quarter timeout.
Yes.
Yeah,
I would. To the
I don't know that for sure,
Right.
but I would assume there is, and he will get all sorts of love.
I don't think they'd be struggling to come up with a highlight reel for that kind of video.
No, they will not. No, they will not.
So it was like that also when you would call other former Bulls, and like a Derrick Rose kind of comes to mind, just being there. So it was kind of the same kind of feeling.
A little,
same kind of
although I wasn't the PA guy when Derek was here, so that changed it a little bit.
Okay.
But we've had Lowry Markkanen and some others who came back. I think DeMar is just a little different
because
right?
that was the one you
right. It a call that lots of people would parrot back to me,
Sure,
and they would,
sure.
you know. So there's that, and he just did so much good stuff in 3 years.
Yeah.
You know, the Clippers game a couple of years back, you know, when he dropped 50,
Yeah.
whatever it was. Like, so much of that happened that I think there's just something different about him.
Yeah, I mean, you called so many DeMar buckets that took Bulls fans' breath away as we were all collectively watching and our jaws hit the floor. Is there one or a couple that'll stick around in your memory for a long time when you think about all the times you said his name after a bucket?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned the Clippers game, I think, and I don't know that I can come up with one because that fourth quarter, there were so many of them. But whatever that turnaround was in the last minute or so of the fourth quarter of that game was just a kind of, you can feel the United Center explode.
Yeah.
And I just kind of try to match it a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know that anyone heard it. Quite honestly, like maybe
speakers were working just fine,
right?
Yeah,
but it just gets so loud. But that's that game probably overall kind of encapsulates my DeMar experience, I would think.
Like in my head, it's going to be funny. Like when he does something cool, and your natural instinct is to go high, but then go. So it might be like DeMar
DeRozan, right? I hope I don't forget. I mean, every once in a while you get caught up in a. Sometimes it's just natural to respond in a certain way, and you gotta remind yourself of where you are and what the context is. But I'm sure we'll be just fine. I
do too.
I both look forward and dread that day. But I'm sure we'll have a good time.
At least it's only one.
Correct.
King,
Correct.
So only be one
West
time.
West Coast.
So obviously we'll get plenty of your thoughts on what the Bulls have done, maybe kind of changing directions this offseason. But while we are, you know, feeling the feels with DeMar talk and a little retrospection, like after seeing in the best seat in the house a view of DeMar did what he did in the Bulls jersey over the last 3 seasons, what were your feelings as we all heard the news that the DeMar era was coming to an end, the signing trade to Sacramento, and what was your favorite part about the DeMar era with the Bulls?
Well, first of all, I want nothing but good things for DeMar. Like if this is a chance for him to be closer to family, back close home, all of that. So I was happy for him if that's a great situation. Sure. I assume it is. I was really sad for me. He and the fans and the team. Like he is a consummate professional. Yeah. He would, prior to shoot around, quite often sit down on the scorer's table right in front of me and tie his Kobe's, and we'd talk about his shoes or his coffee or whatever he was drinking, and so I will miss that for sure. I will miss his girls when they were there. They would mimic his free throw shooting as he would do it, and so I could see from my seat. They sat right across from me off to the left. I could see him shooting and them right behind him doing the same routine, which is super cool. So all that kind of stuff. He's just a great dude. So
apologies to any Toronto Raptors fans who might be catching our show today.
Right. So all of that I will miss, and very much look forward to see him again, even if it's just for a few minutes.
Plenty more still ahead with our guy Tim Sinclair, Bulls PA announcer, joining us in studio today on CHGO Bulls, including his thoughts on the Bulls offseason. But in the meantime, want to give a shout out to our friends at Factor Meal Kits. Warm, sunny days are here, Chicago. Fuel up for these sunny days with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals in time for summer thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Heyo, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. I love how quick it is. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. With 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, you'll always have new flavors to explore. You can crush your wellness goals with dietitian-approved meals. Make your days delicious from breakfast to dessert. Stay fueled with easy, nutritious options. They even have smoothies, y'all. I love their smoothies. Different flavors that are all delicious. Enjoy effortless support for your lifestyle. Choose from 6 different menu preferences to help you manage your calories, manage your protein intake, avoid meat if that's something you want. I don't know why you would. Meat's delicious. Or simply eat a more well-balanced diet. Head to factormeals.com/CHGO Bulls 50 and get 50% off your first box plus 20% off the following month with promo code CHGO Bulls 50. That's CHGO Bulls 50. Factormeals.com/CHGO Bulls 50 for 50% off that first box and 20% off the next one while your subscription is active.
Peep the golden pipes, Tim Sinclair. George Wallace, what time is it?
Game time.
Game time is the authorized ticket marketplace for Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. And with those killer last-minute deals, all-in prices moves from your seat and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes that guesswork out of buying those tickets. They got those last-minute deals, y'all. Save up to 60% buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, and theater events nearest you. Matt wants to go to theater events. Why don't you? So, flash deals. Save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or the event. And, of course, the zone deals where you can save even more where you choose your section and let Game Time do the selection. All-in pricing. You can toggle this feature showing the total up front with no surprise fees at checkouts. And, of course, Matt and I's favorite feature, the seat views, y'all, because we're big and we're tall and we want to know where we're sitting. Well, by the bathroom, by the concession stand, wherever, we need to know where we're at. Seat Views will let you know. They got the lowest price guarantee on Game Time and will credit you 110%. I said 110% of the difference if it ain't right. So take that guesswork out of buying those tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use that code CHGO. Get yourself $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Terms apply. That's CHGO. Get yourself $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guarantee. Because Matt Pack. What's it? Game Time. Who?
It's so close
Tim
to
was
actually
looking
being
at us.
fun.
No, I'm just taking it all in. I was at a Broadway show right here. I mean, this was my own little personal Broadway show. I loved it.
Do you
Great
think
seats.
Matt and I could be PA announcers and stuff like that?
I'm sure you could pull it off.
You think we could do that?
For sure.
Okay. All right.
That bears too much responsibility.
I mean, now doing it and not getting fired while doing it, there is a fine line.
Half a day, Tim. I'd make it half a day.
I used to say that
Welcome
about
aboard,
news for
and
me.
you're fired.
They're like, hey, you ever want to do like evening news kind
Yeah.
of stuff? And I'm like, I would comment entirely too quickly and be done.
I can't take myself that seriously.
Yeah, no.
Like, are you serious? Like,
No way.
like, whoa.
All right, Tim, let's talk about this Bulls youth movement that has started to happen over this offseason. And let's start with the draft itself. The Bulls take Matas Buzelis, who is a young prospect with some Chicago ties, played one of his seasons of high school ball out in the suburbs in Chicago. The Bulls take him 11th overall, one of several members of that G League Ignite team to get drafted in this 2024 draft class. You mentioned that you did catch some of the summer league action. What are your first impressions of this young man and what he can do coming into the fold of what the Bulls are trying to do next?
I mean, I won't lie. I didn't know a lot about him ahead of time.
Sure.
I assumed, I think like most, he was going to get drafted before the Bulls would ever get there. You know,
Right.
we're thinking top 5, 6, 7. But after seeing him play a little, I'd certainly like what I've seen. I think it's going to be fun. Like most any other really young player, it's going to take time, and there's going to be all sorts of things to work through. But I think he has the tools, he has the length, he has certainly the attitude that it takes to make it in the league.
Oh, yeah.
And I have said on a couple of occasions, like I see a little bit of Franz Wagner in him, maybe.
Okay.
Just if he develops his shot a little bit more, I see that kind of, because Franz can have that attitude a little too.
That thorn in your side kind of swagger.
Correct.
Yeah.
And he loves playing that role.
Yes, he
and
does.
he's a big, lanky guy who can shoot from the outside. So I feel like if he can be on that track, I don't think anybody would be too disappointed.
Yeah. Have you already, since you're 2K guy, have you already gotten that together for Matas?
We have recorded all of the names, that were in the draft or that could have been drafted. I mean, we do like so many names. And so
Was that a PTSD flashback?
Right. Yes, he did.
So
I
many
saw it
names.
happen.
Well,
A cigarette
and
came
now-
out.
like initially we had to do all of the things, right? Because they didn't have us recorded for anything. Well, now most things, there's a few things they add each time, but now most of what we're adding is just names. So you'll go in and record for 3, 4, 5 hours, and it's just Matas Buzelis, and then go name after name after name after name. So yes, I did his name. I did not know at the time he was going to be a Bull.
Sure.
So it's just kind of excited versions, down versions. He's shooting a free throw. He's checking into the game. He just made it through. Like, we do all those versions for every name, but it was fairly, I don't want to say generic, but it was, I didn't know he was going to be a Bull. So I think next year in the game, you'll hear, and I noticed that with DeMar actually, because when I recorded DeMar the very first year I did 2K, I didn't know he was going to be a Bull. So we didn't have any of that yet. And then next year, all of a sudden, it went from DeMar DeRozan to DeMar. It went from to the Bulls one. So I think that will probably happen with Matas once we get sort of something in place. But what that is yet, no one knows, including me. Including me.
And when it comes to those other players on 2K, so like a Coby White, like you still go with your Coby White. And you're hitting it with that. Okay. So I guess the question, or maybe the statement I'm making is, depending on how Matas grows will depend on how you pronounce the name. Or will that just change over time?
I don't know that his play necessarily will impact, but I think it's this kind of sum total of what the crowd's reacting to. And I know they're not reacting to me per se, but it's really hard to explain, but it just kind of happens. All of a sudden you're doing something, and it may be a catchphrase that's an anchor has on TV. Like, they didn't use it, and then they used it once, and people reacted, and so they used it again, and now all of a sudden it's a thing. That's kind of what it is with this.
You just heard me do ad reads, so I understand.
Correct. Yeah, that has morphed into a life of its own. No one can quite explain it, but that will happen with him for sure.
So one of the other biggest headlines for the Bulls offseason is another part of this youth movement, but on the more veteran side, Patrick Williams signing a new long-term contract to stick around, 5 years, $90 million. Some Bulls fans said, what has he done to deserve that, with the modest stat lines and injury-plagued seasons a couple of different times through his first 4 years as an NBA player. And some saying, well, hey, if he maybe has an opportunity to seize a larger role in the departure of DeMar DeRozan, maybe a midseason departure of Zach LaVine, or maybe a midseason departure of Vooch, that if he stays healthy and takes a step, that could end up being a very friendly contract from the Bulls side of things. What did you make about the Bulls locking him up long term and coming off the heels of an injury shortened season where he played 43 games? What are you hoping to see from Pat next season?
I mean, I think everybody would agree about Pat that the tools are there, and if you stand next to him, like, you really understand this dude is an NBA player, and you know why the term Baby Kawhi came out. Like, his hands, his calves are just gigantic. He is just a large human, although he doesn't always seem like it. So with all that said, like, I feel like more opportunity, maybe less pressure, and no injuries would make a big difference for him. Now, what that becomes, I don't know, but I do know the Bulls have several really friendly contracts right now that they signed. Ayo and Coby come to mind, where they had good seasons, not great seasons, decided we want to sign, the Bulls agreed, and it became a really great thing. So ideally, something like that happens with Patrick. He doesn't get hurt, and he's able to show who he truly is. Because I think we've seen it. It's just a matter of seeing it regularly.
Yes, all the time. One thing I've always wanted Patrick to have around him was people opposite of him. Loud. You know what I mean? In your face, stuff like that. I thought I would get that. That can push him kind of in practice. I thought I would get that from Dalen. Then you realize Dalen isn't like his size. Can't really, match up with him. But now you got a guy like Matas, who can kind of match up with him. So do you see this kind of helping Patrick Williams and also in turn helping Matas as far as, his growth, them guys kind of going at it? Because as you mentioned, Matas is not a dude who's backing down from anything. And he's going to talk about it, and he's going to be in your face about it. So do you think that will help a guy like Patrick Williams who isn't super vocal?
I mean, I do think in any sport and any team, when you see two guys or two groups of people going against each other who are good and naturally get the best, that good things are going to happen. And so I definitely think that could happen. I feel like it's really early to know how loud and in your face is Matas going to be when you're in a real NBA Bulls practice. I mean, summer league's one thing, but getting in training camp and jumping into an NBA season for a 19-year-old or 20-year-old rookie is a bit of a different thing. So that will be interesting to me. But I do think, I would assume Patrick knows, like, this is it. Like, this is your time. If ever there was a time, it's right now. And so I'm still a believer in him, and I think the tools are there, and I'd love to see consistency, and maybe Matas will be one who will help sort of be the yin to his yang, or vice versa. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bulls fans have spent a lot of time over the last couple of years having this debate in our chats and our Twitter and our YouTube. You know, like, is it opportunity or is it mindset that has been in Patrick Williams' way through the first part of his NBA career? And then DeMar DeRozan departs. Suddenly there are X amount of field goal attempts per game to take, because Bulls fans have, since we drafted him 4th overall, have thought, and then the baby Kawhi thing started getting thrown out there. Oh, this guy could be like an all-star level talent on the offensive end. What we have seen is a guy who has a decent stroke from three, can take and knock down a decent amount of them. He's very modestly increased his 3-point attempt rate over his years in the league, but have not seen the give me the rock. I'm going to put my head down and use my size that you were just highlighting to prove my dominance on different levels of the court to be a scorer. Do you think that there is any realm that version of Pat is something Bulls fans finally see, if it was more so about lack of opportunity as opposed to not the right aggressive mindset?
I felt like last year we saw him going to the rim a lot with some aggression and force. Now, unfortunately, he missed a lot of those dunks that just didn't go down. But I do think that proves the mindset is there. He was listening. He was trying to act. The question becomes, are you doing it because someone asked you to? Or are you doing it because I talked about authenticity at the very beginning of the show, like, because that's authentically you. And I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know him very well at all. But I think we see the potential is there physically. Does the rest of it follow?
We don't know.
Don't know.
I will say,
I really hope so, because I love Patrick.
Dude, you and me both. Man. I will say he gave you a slight nod without actually saying your name, because I saw when Matas and him went to the track, when the Daytona was here and everything, and you heard Matas say, "Oh, there he is, Patrick Williams." And Patrick turned around and said, "Dude, you're gonna love it." When he says it, you're gonna love it, man. Like, I want to ask the question, but I don't want a long answer on it, so I want to take this break and come back. But I'll ask you the other question I have.
That wasn't very cool.
It was very cool, though.
Like, you ever heard your name said like this in the starting lineup?
Dude, you're gonna
still more plenty ahead with our guy, Bulls PA announcer Tim Sinclair, hanging out with us in the studio today on CHGO Bulls.
Beer. Matt drinks it. It's delicious. But the one that he drinks and enjoys, and the way he finds his chill, is a frosty cold Coors Light. Because between work, social media, and the choices life throws our way, it's no wonder we're more worked up. Coors Light celebrates rising above and choosing a chill mindset. Why not turn that rained out barbecue into the Will to Go Gottlieb and Tim Sinclair 55th annual karaoke house party?
Ooh, can't wait.
Oh, I would love to know Tim Sinclair's go-to karaoke song. Or after a tough loss.
Serious by Alan Parsons Podcast. Doesn't matter that it's instrumental.
That's an easy one.
Do it. Just screaming at him. Do it now. After a tough loss, settle scores with an ice cold peace offering. Make the choice to choose chill and then reach for a Coors Light. It's mountain cold refreshment, because when those mountains turn blue, oh yes, you know what to do. Coors Light is cold lager, cold filtered, and cold packaged for a smoother finish. When it's time to embrace that chill, it's a great time to crack open a frosty cold Coors Light. Crisp and refreshing as the Colorado Hurricanes. Make the most out of your times. to choose chill, choose Coors Light. Get it delivered straight to your door via Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/CHGO basketball. That's CoorsLight.com/CHGO basketball. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
Today's show also brought to you by Rugged Road. Big Dave, you know I'm going out on my annual canoe trip this weekend. Looking forward to it. Hanging out with my buddies, just getting some peace and quiet, putting phone down, putting Twitter away.
Getting in that water.
And you know what I'm keeping my icy cold Coors Lights in for that canoe trip.
Tell me.
Because it's a Rugged Road cooler.
Oh.
Mine just arrived. I ordered it. It arrived in warp speed. I didn't even pay for warp speed. It was just a very efficient delivery process.
Yes, sir.
I meant to bring it to the studio with me today. I forgot. I think we've got another Rugged Road shout out later this week. I'll try to remember to bring it.
Excited to see it.
It is even more beautiful and perfect than I wanted it to be when I was looking at their website. Rugged Road is dedicated to creating innovative and durable outdoor gear for adventurers who demand the best. Our products are designed with the highest quality materials and craftsmanship, ensuring they perform in the toughest conditions. Whether you're on land or water, Rugged Road gear is built to accompany you on every adventure.
Yes.
And one of the most unique features of Rugged Road coolers that I can't wait to test out this weekend is their ability to always float upright.
What?
That's right. Never lose a drink. Never lose a precious drink when you're keeping them nice and safe in your floatable, stay upright always Rugged Road coolers.
Chill.
And they are a wonderful lightweight design, unlike other heavy-duty coolers, some of which I have from other brands, and they're great and they're durable, but they weigh a ton without being filled with beers and ice.
No.
Nobody likes that. I'm lazy. Rugged Road coolers are incredibly light, making them easy to transport on any trip without compromising on performance. So gear up for your next adventure with Rugged Road coolers. Reliable, durable, built to be used. Rugged Road is your ultimate outdoor companion. Head to ruggedroadoutdoors.com and use promo code CHGO to get 10% off your order. And we also got CHGO Bears tailgates right around the corner.
Oh, around the way, baby.
You know, it's always enticing getting a brand new cooler for tailgate season.
This is very
Do you ever get to, hang out at a tailgate before kickoff?
I do not.
No?
I go inside very early, and then
How early? Because our tailgate started at, like 8 a.m.?
Yeah,
I
very
guess I
early.
can be there
That's
from
true.
like 8 to 8:45, but I typically have to get to games by about 9.
Okay, that makes sense. Matt, you can't call yourself lazy, man, if you're going to go canoeing.
That's
actual work.
There's some paddling involved.
Yeah, you got to do stuff.
This is a one time a year where I voluntarily do physical exercise.
And like the coolers, he also floats and stays upright.
This is very true.
Yeah.
This is very true.
Well done.
And it also requires some amount of like using your core muscle
That's
balance
right, yeah.
to not tip your canoe over.
That's right.
Especially because it's going to be loaded up with beers.
That's it. Rugged Road, baby.
The current does some of the work too.
It
You
does
gotta
a
make
little
sure
of the
you
work.
Drinking from equal sides.
Right,
so you don't
right.
offset the balance.
Row, drink.
Yep.
He's got the technique down and everything, man. This man works.
Done this
right.
before.
No, I wanted to ask you, what is it like when players say those kind of things about you and your style? Like, oh, man, that's so cool to hear, or I love the way you say my name and all this other. What's that like for you to hear? You kind of like take it with a grain of salt, or is it just like, oh, thank you, because I really was working on that, and I hope you liked it a lot.
You know, most of the time, I assume they don't pay any attention whatsoever. Like
Okay.
they're so in their lane that it's just, and they've done this all their life. Like it's not a big deal. However, I do, especially visiting teams and newer guys on those visiting teams will often stop what they're doing, walk away from their team, and just watch the Bulls introductions. Now, I'm not foolish enough to believe that really has anything to do with me whatsoever, but everything to do with what those intros have meant to basketball.
Sure.
But regardless, I'm the guy who gets to do it, and I like that a lot. Patrick Beverly, when he was here, walked up and said, because he watched him during our rehearsals, and it was his first game that he started. I introduced him. He walked over, and I was like, how was it? He goes, I felt like I was Michael Jordan. I was like, good. That's what I was going for.
That's awesome.
That means you did a great job, because Pat Beverly is not Michael Jordan.
No, he is not. He is not. Vooch has come up and said, like, I missed a game. I did the Big Ten football championship game last year and had to miss a game. Next game, he walks up and says, man, we really missed you. Glad you're back. So I guess they do pay attention.
Yeah.
I did see that clip with Patrick and Matas, which I'm glad they appreciate it.
Yeah.
That's why I do it, for them and the fans.
Yeah.
And it is fun. Like those, I'd say they're my 73 seconds of fame. Like from the second that starts to when I say Billy Donovan's name, is exactly 73 seconds every single time. And sometimes, to me, that's the best part of the game. You never know what's going to happen, right?
True.
Some games are clunkers, but
Sure.
I don't ever want, like, everybody's phone's in the air. I don't ever want to go halfway on that, because for a lot of people, that's the one and only time they're going to see that.
Yeah.
They saw it in The Last Dance, or they remember it as a kid, or it is a kid who's never seen it before ever.
And, you know, we have a lot of our fellow Bulls fans who are diehards who tune in from all over the world, live internationally, and maybe make one trip, the first trip of their lifetime, to come to the UC and see a home game and talk about that experience being such a huge part of it because of the lore of it and witnessing it from afar for their entire life.
Yeah. And for me, that's one of the reasons I love working for the Bulls, is that even if the game stinks, I think the entertainment team or teams do a great job of helping people have fun regardless. And I know this may be a bone of contention with you, like you don't want them to have fun if we suck, because
it's almost like he knows you, man.
I get it.
Tim, you been listening, buddy?
But for me, like, my job, one of them is to help people get goosebumps, even if the game isn't a goosebumpy game.
Right. Yeah.
And so, you know, that makes the job that much more fun and special, because I get to be a part of that. So
I mean, people love it when you shoot free T-shirts out at them from a cannon.
Yep,
this is true.
They do
all of the
and put them on the video board.
Right.
And you want to get somebody to scream, just put them on the video board, and that typically does the trick.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of goosebumps, I think in a game or in a season that had some clunkers, Bulls fans, even the cynical ones like myself, had goosebump moments watching the ascension of Coby White this past season. Another name that I enjoyed you hear calling over and over, even on the nights when I wasn't in the mood, because he just did some things on the court last season that I was shaking my head. Like, holy crap, Coby, where did that come from? Do you think Coby still has another level to reach?
I mean, I would never tell an NBA player they don't.
Right. Sure.
So yes, to answer the question, but it was interesting to me. I think the majority of what we saw was a result of his confidence in ball handling and his ability to go, I don't have to take whatever shot I'm standing here when I get the ball, and whether it's a good or bad one, I have to put it up because that's my job, is to shoot. Like, now I have the confidence to catch the ball and then do something with it and know I can get to my spot, whether it's for a three or somewhere around the rim. His finishing went through the roof last year. So I think that skill is part of it, but like we were talking about with Patrick, mindset is the other part of it. And the more he realizes I can get to my spots, and when I do, I'm confident. That's what DeMar was brilliant at in a different way. He knew that he was going to do enough, whether it was with leverage, Luka does this too, where he gets to the spot that he knows he can make that shot 9 times out of 10. And so Coby, I think, is learning some of that, of if I get to the spot where I know I'm confident making a shot, everything is going to go better. So to answer your question,
Well, let me ask you, Ayo Dosunmu, one of our favorite guys, Ayo, our Gaio. You've been able to watch him since the beginning and just literally on the court see his growth and his change. Can you talk to us about what you've seen from him just watching those games on the floor, the changes in him, the intangibles that have changed him? Because us from the outside looking in, we see the changes in his game, just being a little more aggressive, and doing those things. But what are the other things that you're seeing watching him play on the floor that has changed about him since you first started watching him?
Yeah, I've probably not called anybody's name more often in the last 6 years than Ayo, because I had 3 years of him at Illinois, now 3 years going into 4 with the Bulls. Couple of things. One is, and we've talked about mindset already, he has that killer mindset. He's not over the top about it, but his brain, you can tell that's just, and his, I want to say, second year with Illinois, maybe it was his third year. We didn't have any fans in the stands, and it was weird, but he had that season like 3 or 4 games where at the end of the second half, he was a killer and won games for Illinois because of mindset and getting to his spot and knocking down a shot.
Yeah.
But what I've seen change in him is body. He has every year I go, whoa, he's got muscles in places he didn't have.
Some of the workout
before.
videos you see of him on Insta this summer.
Yep.
He's added some muscle.
He has again, and so ball handling, him and Coby both doing all those drills. The other thing, and Peter Patton, I think, is to thank for this mostly, is if you notice his base on his 3-point shot is uncomfortably wide.
Yep.
It's almost wider than shoulder width.
Yeah.
And they work on that before every single game, from the corner, from the wings, top of the key, just the setting yourself, getting your wide base and going up. And that obviously in year 3 made a big difference with his shooting percentage. So the mindset has always been there. I think it's just tweaking things for the NBA. His first year, I used to say, it's not a Bulls game till Ayo gets blocked at the rim, because he was used to in college.
It's so true.
Just laying it up and it was fine. Well, now he's got guys who can chase him down and block those before they ever get to the backboard. Yeah. So he's figured out, I've got to let the ball go sooner. I've got to use my offhand. I've got to go off the other foot. So he's incredibly smart and incredibly motivated, and it's just taking what he's learned in a season, making some tweaks, and then he's going to be better at that thing next year. And I don't expect that to stop anytime soon.
And I mean, one of the almost always reliable lifts for a sometimes stagnant Bulls offense this past season was, we just referred to him as transition Ayo, because you talk about the efficiency and the tweaks he made to be able to finish at the rim, because he's always had that burst, that extra breakaway speed level. And this past season, he showed that he was not afraid to use it. And then the finishing at the end of transition Ayo possessions, he was way more efficient than he had been in either of his first 2 seasons. So it was like, wow, okay, we can see more of that. But
I'd be willing to bet he went off of his off foot more often than his correct foot, because it catches defenders off guard. You let it go early, they can't get to it, and he realized that and now uses it all the time.
I mean, it was really fun to watch this past season. But so, we talk Coby, we talk Ayo, Zach LaVine's still here, and he looks healthy in offseason workouts. We traded for Josh Giddey. There are a lot of guards hanging around.
Yes, there are.
Even with the departure of Caruso, who honestly played like the 3 and the 4 more than he played in the backcourt. We know that Billy Donovan likes to play guard-heavy lineups. He always has. And with a roster he has been assigned, playing guard-heavy lineups made the most sense. Because, hey, who do we have in our front court? Because it's like Vooch and Pat, unless he's hurt, and that's it. Drummond's gone. By the way, Lonzo Ball also might be healthy and playing.
Might be around.
What do you make of the backcourt rotation coming into this 24-25 season?
Man, I do not envy his job, Coach Donovan's, because I could probably make an argument for 4 or 5 different starting backcourts.
Yeah.
Like not having seen anybody play this year, but certainly if Lonzo's part of that mix, you've got Coby, Lonzo, Ayo, Zach, Josh. I mean, there's a very long list.
Chris Durante.
Duarte. So I don't know. I think there's going to be some people playing the 3 and 4 in certain rotations who you are not used to seeing play the 3 or the 4. But if you're younger and more athletic than the team you're playing against, you can give up a little size and get away with it. But man,
it's
I don't know.
Javon Carter's still here too.
God,
either that or Patrick Williams and Vucevic are going to be very, very tired every game.
True indeed. You mentioned Josh Giddey. Wanted to get your opinion on him a little bit. We watched him in the Olympics. He kept getting what I love to call Hakeem triple doubles. You get your regular triple double, but Hakeem would get 10 blocks with it. He does it though with turnovers. If he's got 8 assists, he had 7 turnovers. Yep. But that doesn't take away, from the points he was getting, the rebounds and the assists, and just how he looked out there. What's your opinion on young Josh Giddey, and do you see him just coming in being the starter at that point guard position for this team?
Yeah, I've always enjoyed watching him play. Now, with them being in the West, I really only saw him in person once a year, so I haven't had a ton of experience watching him play.
Sure.
But I like the taller point guard model.
Okay.
Having somebody with some height. I mean, it hasn't necessarily worked out great for Ben Simmons, but there have been some other examples of tall point guards who've done pretty well, Magic Johnson, etc.
Yeah, true.
So I'm excited to see him up close on a regular basis. I think from what most have said and from what I have seen, shot making is going to be a thing he's got to probably work on, more than he has. He had in Oklahoma City, he had a lot of shot makers around him. And technically with Levine and Coby and Ayo and others, he's got shot makers here too.
Yeah.
But you also can't be a net zero on that because that causes some problems. So
we've been told, yes.
And I don't think he is that, but I do think that if he's seen as that we're going to have to work on that thing.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I don't know, but I do think he brings some things to the table from a rebounding and assist perspective, and not needing to score if we don't need him to score. That could be helpful.
Sure.
I think Lonzo was a little that way. I don't think he's that athletic, but
I mean, Lonzo was the team's highest volume 3-point shooter before he went down.
Right,
just wild.
Speaking of people who could make or break their career if they learn how to shoot, Dalen Terry. I think Bulls fans have always appreciated when we were talking about Patrick Williams earlier. Dave says all the time, "I wish I could take Dalen Terry's brain and put it in Patrick Williams' body."
Yes.
Right. We saw that he took a step back from summer league when some players this past July went and played their third consecutive year. Dalen he and the team decided that maybe wasn't productive or didn't need to. But we also, until the Bulls started, having some depth issues, didn't see a lot of Dalen in Billy's rotation last season. But now with this youth movement that they're steering towards, do you see him carving a larger role for himself? And do you think whether or not he does is entirely dependent on his ability to knock down that three ball more consistently?
I mean, I as we were just mentioning, if he can play the 4, I think he'll get some time.
He'll volunteer to play
the
4.
Absolutely.
I've always compared Dalen to to me, he's like a baby deer. Very excited to be out in the world. But
very happy to be here.
But zero idea how his legs work.
Yeah.
And just is spindly and I might fall down at any moment, but I've got a ton of energy, so let's see what happens.
Right. That's real.
But clearly, DeMar thought enough of him to have him on his team this summer. Yeah, they did pretty well.
They won the whole thing.
Obviously. So, I think there's a role for him if he wants it, but shooting the ball well from the outside, not turning it over, his ability to fill minutes at the 4 and guard guys who are probably bigger and stronger than him, those are all going to be things that, given the current roster, they need. So, the time is there for his taking. He's just got to have to take it.
That's true. Let me ask you about the other guy who's not here anymore during that trade, and that's Alex Caruso. What are you going to miss about young Alex Caruso? I'm going to just leave it there.
Man,
you got
everything.
things to say.
A PA announcer's dream.
Man, let me go to work.
That dude, I mean, I would have said his name more than anyone if you announced intangibles, or if you announced hustle plays, or if you announced floor burns. He was just, and we all know, we all saw it. I'm not gonna break any news here, but he was just a joy to watch play. My favorite thing about him that wasn't actual skill on the court was how he was a coach on the floor, and to the point that he would stand near the opposing coaches to listen to the direction that they were giving their players or plays they were calling. And then he would turn around and to Billy or the other guys on the team say, "They're running 3 or New York or whatever." And he knew what those meant. Right. He knew how to get people in the right place. And he knew enough and didn't care enough to stand right there and go, "I'm just going to listen to everything you're saying."
Right.
And then go tell my guys. He was very much a coach on the floor in addition to all of the just hustle plays. he'll be missed a lot, and he will forever be one of my favorites.
That's something that I think a lot of Bulls fans have been wondering about. We just did a mailbag episode a few episodes back, and somebody was asking about who's the leader of this team now? Because you talk about Caruso's leadership, especially vocally on the defensive end. Yep. You talk about DeMar being the veteran leader and mentor to the young guys. And now it's like, okay, well, they're both gone. Mm-hmm. And Zach is still here, but Zach, as much as he was maybe the face of the franchise for a handful of years there, including a couple of all-star appearances, never really seemed to take that leadership role. Vooch is still here, and he's a vet, but never really seemed to garner that veteran leader label of the team. Some are wondering if this is Coby White's team now. Yeah. But in the meantime, is it going to present a weird locker room situation when we're trying to figure out who the leader of this team is, especially vocally, during timeouts, on the floor, when the two guys who absolutely were the leaders of this team last year are no longer here? What do you make of that conundrum?
Yeah, I would say, I don't know what happens behind the scenes or in the locker room per se. I would say on the floor, it's Coby.
Yeah.
And that's not disrespect to Zach at all. Sure. He's just I'm going to go out and play guy. Whereas Coby, even being younger than Zach and DeMar and some of the others, has been I'm going to grab your jersey and tell you something real quick or encourage you or whatever. So if I had to bet, which I cannot do, I would say it'd be Coby. Now we'll see. Right. There's a lot of new pieces and a lot of new personalities, and there are guys who have grown up with the team. Ayo being one.
Maddie in the comments just pointed out that Ayo could kind of take some of that Caruso vocal defensive leadership role.
He is yes, he could. He is also super quiet. Mm-hmm. At least from everything I've seen, he's kind of I'm going to go out and play. I'm going to show you with my work. But I'd love to see that from him. I don't know if we will, but I think that's probably, to me, the second option at the moment.
So, Tim, last time you were here, we kind of talked about the midseason tournament, and you talked about, you were just excited to see how it went and how it was. So you had your first go-round on it. You saw it. You got to look at it. What was your opinions on it? And did the floor burn your retinas when you watched it?
Okay, we'll start with the second part first. Sure. Yes.
It was so damn red.
It was, and honestly, if it had all been the same red, I would have been fine with it. Sure. But because part of it was like your team colors laid on the NBA's version of there were two different competing reds, two-tone. And that I was not a huge fan of that. Okay. But the idea, and I know why they did it, was when you turn on your TV and you see that floor, you know it's tournament time. Right. You know it's this midseason tournament. Sure. So I get what they were going after.
I'm a fan of red. I didn't mind it.
Right.
I'm a fan.
All right. Fair.
I didn't mind it.
And I honestly think the tournament did what they wanted it to do too. Okay. It took some eyeballs from the NFL, or at least added to what's sometimes the down part of the basketball season because the NFL's happening. It had a little extra intrigue, and I'm sure it made the league a boatload of money. So it did what it was supposed to do. Now, do players and or fans really care who wins that? I don't know. But
bronze stands sure as shit do.
True.
Add it to the trophy case.
Correct. Way in the back.
Yeah. Right. Hang the banner.
But I do think it did what the NBA wanted it to do, with only really adding what. Now, I think it kind of stinks that one game, the championship, and maybe there's one other one, that none of the statistics count.
Right.
Yes.
Like if you scored 50 in that championship game and it was your career high, it would not be your career high.
The same way Kobe's game against the Hawks in the first play-in tournament.
Correct.
Statistically exists in the ether.
Correct. Yes. Exactly right.
Same with Zach's. Yeah.
I wish there was a way to fix that, but otherwise, it did what the NBA wanted it to do. Mm-hmm. It was fun, and I don't know that we should expect more than that.
Yeah.
So
let's tone down the red a little bit.
I'd be all right with that.
Okay.
I'd be all right with that.
All right.
I mean, like our fan base's motto is "See Red," and then we saw that court last season. And we're like, maybe not. Yeah. Maybe not so much see red.
We need one of those T-shirts that says "Can't see because of," in the really small letters.
Exactly.
Yo.
So we're almost out of time, Tim. But and again, thank you so much for being here.
Yes, sir.
When we look at the body of work the Bulls front office did this offseason to kind of pivot and change directions, they cash in and get a young player with NBA experience they really want for Alex Caruso and Josh Giddey. They find a sign and trade for DeMar so he can get his money and head back west. Bulls fans, I feel, are all over the scale from what we have heard from our fellow Bulls fans who've been tuning in all offseason as far as what they expect from this team. The front office said we're not prioritizing necessarily protecting a top 10 pick next year that we owe to San Antonio. We're excited about this young core of players and seeing what they can do this season. Some Bulls fans think that even without DeMar, this team could fight for a playoff spot next year, whether it be in the play-in tournament or otherwise. Right. Some are saying you lost your best defensive player, you lost your best offensive player. This team's going to plummet, win-loss record-wise. Where do you see them in that scale of they could still be good versus they're not going to be good?
Yeah, man, it's a hard question to answer. As an employee of the team,
correct,
and a fan,
yes, sir,
I always want them to win. My heart is always like, hey, let's win as many games as we possibly can.
Yeah.
And winning is fun.
It is fun.
Super fun.
And making the playoffs would be great since I get paid by the game.
Hello.
Pay this man.
So, I'm a little warped by that.
Okay.
I think as much as anything, I want to know that whether I work for the team or I'm just a fan of the team, that they have a plan and a direction. And that now sometimes that works. Sometimes it doesn't. I've been a fan of both over the years.
Yeah.
But have a plan, and then if it doesn't work, let's change the plan and let's try something else. And yeah. I will be an eternal optimist and a lifelong fan with those things in place. And I think what we've seen in the offseason has been hey, we're going to change direction a little bit. We've tried this. It's not what we hoped for. Now we're going to go to the next thing. And so I'm excited to see what that is. And like I said, I'm going to be an eternal optimist about it all the time. My job's never not fun.
You're in Dave's canoe is what you're saying.
Sure.
Come on.
But also, and I've talked with other people who work in media around teams. My job is always going to be fun.
Right.
Even if we're losing,
that's real.
I'm going to have a blast.
Mm-hmm.
And so obviously it's better if we win for lots of reasons.
Right.
But I get to sit courtside and introduce NBA players. I'm going to have fun.
That one game that we went to, I can't remember, I think it was maybe 2 seasons ago when Dave and I were kind enough to receive some tickets. I think it was our pal Jim, our Bulls fan, longtime viewer of the show.
Shout out.
His seats that are one or two seat rows behind your desk, your office desk.
Yeah.
And we, said, what's up to you real quick, before tip off or halftime or something. And we were like, man, this is your view every night. Not bad, man. Not bad.
You're not doing too bad, man.
And they give me a parking spot and feed me.
Not doing too bad. Yo, on top of that, Matt, the last time I went to the Bulls game with my nephew, I got a deal from Tim, and Tim was like, I guess you're at the game, huh? Because he could hear me yelling and snapping at him at the game. And I looked and I turned around and he's looking right. He's like, yeah. I'm like,
it's not often at the United Center you can pick out one individual fan.
It was so
These
funny.
These microphones are just for show, y'all.
Yeah, they're just
not
here.
Required
not
for that
necessary
guy.
at all.
One more question. I think Flex Diggs asked a really cool question that I honestly wanted to know. Who chooses where players get introduced in the starting lineup? And how do we get Coby announced last?
I can be overruled, but generally that's my
Really?
Interesting.
They leave that up to you?
I didn't know this.
They leave that up to me.
What's your answer, Flex Diggs?
But again, I can be overruled.
Sure.
And a lot goes into that. When DeMar and Zach were both there and starting at the same time, DeMar was first, Zach was last. I always felt like when Zach wasn't playing or was hurt, I didn't want to change everything and move DeMar to the end, even though I felt like if you're going to save the best for last, he would
Right.
go. Yeah. But DeMar was always first. And if you start with somebody else first, then it's this weird confusion the rest of the way through.
Right.
Yeah.
So I feel like leaving people in their slots as much as possible was the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, Vooch, the man in the middle, center's always going to be in the middle.
Right.
For a variety of reasons. It works that way. But other than that, we try to make it make sense.
Yeah.
And so hopefully that happens.
Dude, that's so cool. Like, you just answered a question I've had in my head for years. Thanks for asking that, Flex.
Good question.
Man, that's a good question.
Thank you all for joining us today. Hit that like button for our guy Tim Sinclair if you enjoyed today's episode. Bulls PA announcer, Bears PA announcer, going to be working Bears preseason around the corner. Chicago Fire. You said you're going to be doing that game when Miami and Messi come to town.
I am.
Later this month.
Take over.
NBA 2K. You hear this guy's voice all over that. Follow him on the socials, Tim J. Sinclair, the one and only.
Yes, he is.
Always a pleasure, buddy.
Appreciate it.
We are back tomorrow with a fresh episode. In the meantime, Big Dave is at BAL Sports, Bulls_Peck. Shout out and thanks to our panel producer, the young Spathis on the controls, at Joey Spathis. Goats back tomorrow, y'all. Enjoy your Tuesday night. We'll talk to you soon. See you, Rad. Be good.
Peace.
We all silly.